What is up, guys? Welcome to Diggity, a video game podcast. I'm Jeff James. With me, as always, the incredible, unpaintable, luscious Brody Fultz. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you?
Good. I'm doing good, too. I'm doing really good. Getting down from that crazy-ass news that broke last, 2 days ago. I want to say last week, but it wasn't. It was only like 2 days ago. Just trying to wrap my head around the whole fucking thing, you know?
Yeah. If you haven't listened to our episode about that yet, about all the Xbox Activision Blizzard stuff, you should probably go check that out. We did a emergency episode with the boys over at WASD and beyond. And honestly, that episode was a lot of fun to do because we are completely shooting in the dark here. Nobody knows how this is all going to turn out, really. So it is fun to make those speculations and kind of guess what's going to happen. But that episode was a lot of fun for sure.
No, it was a blast. I'm sure this will be a topic, probably not covered by us all the time, for the next year. I'm sure a lot of other people will, but I'm sure people will not stop talking about this for the next foreseeable future because this is crazy.
Yeah, there will definitely continue to be talks about this for a while now, but
shit will change, right? So.
Yeah, as we get more information, and I'm sure there'll be all sorts of things, right? Like P3's been out all over the place pretty much talking about it and doing all sorts of different interviews and conference call type stuff. And it's just ever evolving at this point.
Yeah, it is. You guys can find us on Twitter and Instagram at Diggity Podcast. You can also listen to us if this is your first time listening to us for the audio version or watching us on YouTube or Twitch right now. We have an audio version of the podcast that goes up every morning, early morning on Friday morning, so you can start your Friday off right with us on every single podcast platform known to man. And then we go live with the video version of this podcast every Thursday evening, 9:30 on our YouTube channel. You can just search Diggity Podcast or Diggity Gaming, and you'll find us. So you'll see our little controller icon that matches our iTunes artwork, or I guess, wherever you listen to it, our podcast artwork. There's so many places you can fucking listen to it, you know? It's so fucking go find it.
That's right.
That's how I pretty much feel at this point. But as tradition continues and follows, what have you been playing this week?
So I have been playing Halo. Obviously, that's still one of my staples. I played a little bit of Rocket League, not too much, just kind of dipping my toes back in the water, I guess. Got back into Hades in a pretty big way. I started playing that last weekend and really jumped into that, and really, I'm loving that game still. And I've made it to the final boss multiple times now and get my ass beat every time. And so I've been waiting for you and Nick to make it there so we can talk about it, but I don't want to spoil anything, so I just don't say anything. No, but anyway,
I'm hoping this weekend I can nip away at that one.
Yeah.
And put some time into it.
And then I actually played a couple new games. So I started Nobody Saves the World. Mm-hmm. I started that last night. That's a new game to Xbox Game Pass. And it's pretty cool. It's like a quirky ARPG type of game. You get these different forms where you turn into the first form you get is, aside from you start basically a naked character, just this white pale style? Human being. What's that?
Like Terminator style, you wake up all
naked
in the rain and shit like that.
But anyway, the first thing you get is actually this rat form, and then you gotta do challenges for each different form that you get in order to unlock stars so you can progress. And it's actually a neat little concept. I don't know how grindy it gets later on in the game because I could see how it could get really grindy. But right now it's fun. I'm enjoying what I have played of it. I've probably only played maybe an hour, so. Very, very new. And the other game I played was Pedestrian, which is also on Game Pass, and I played that through the cloud on my phone, actually. I got that Razer controller that hooks up to my phone, and I was playing that, and it worked well. That's like a puzzle game. I think we saw it during a Nintendo Direct, but it's a puzzle game where you are just like a figure on a sign, essentially, like a character on a sign, and you're walking and progressing through different signs and different like landscapes like that. And it's got some puzzles where sometimes you go through a door and you come out into another sign, and then you got to figure out how to, get either a key or turn power back on or whatever it may be in order to progress to the next level. And it's actually a really neat little game. I don't know how much I've played of it. I don't even know how long it takes to beat it. But so far, like, most of it's been pretty simple and straightforward, but it was starting to definitely get a little bit more challenging where you got to make sure you're going through the right door at the right time, going and then entering into the next room. And like, you can get up to, I mean, I think some of them that I had a good 5 or 6 different panels that you were going between trying to solve. And it's actually a little bit of a brain teaser for sure. It's not like a lot of puzzle games where it's pretty simple. Like, this one seems like it could get pretty tough. But other than that, I think that pretty much sums me up. How about you?
Played a little bit of Civ. So that was nice. Yeah, played a little bit of Civ. Played some NHL 22. I just like pick it up because I can quickly get in like, I don't know, like a 20-minute session in and just finish a game. But I'm in franchise mode with my beloved Toronto Maple Leafs, so I'm sure I'll kill it during the season, fucking blow it in the playoffs, just like real life. Pretty accurate nowadays. And then I've played a tiny bit of Overwatch. Although that game I still really like that game a lot. It's just like, man, I don't understand their strategy here. Not on the, I mean, nobody does, but not on the sense of like, hey, Overwatch 2 is delayed right now. It's like, I would definitely be trying to continually push updates to the original Overwatch or new characters,
absolutely,
to continue that, brevity into the community. And it's just not that. Like, I mean, some seasonal stuff is, but the skins are pretty lazy for the seasonal stuff. I mean, it feels like it's end of life for that game, but it's kind of felt like that because, I mean, they're gonna do Overwatch 2 and. I mean, well, it's a new game. It's the same shit. It's the same characters redesigned. So it's like, why wouldn't you keep that community alive and then you can push it? I mean, you're obviously gonna fucking advertise Overwatch 2 in Overwatch, right? When it launches. So I don't know. Weird stuff. Weird Blizzard thing.
That game has kind of felt like it's been on its last leg for a while now, where they just, once they announced Overwatch 2, it seems like they do their normal seasonal stuff, and that's about it, really. And it sucks because, I mean, when that game is good, it's great. It's an enjoyable game, but it seems like they're kind of letting it die. And like you said, keep that hype train rolling to some extent and give people hope that Overwatch 2 is going to live up to it, because the way Overwatch is being supported right now, it's not promising, right?
Really
but
weird.
I mean, granted, some of the news from this week could help change some of that at some point, but we'll see.
I mean, it's being treated right now as if it was like a campaign game.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's not. It's surely not.
It is
Overwatch
certainly
2
not.
is supposed to have a bit of that, but this one does not. So I played that. Always fucked around a little bit with Hearthstone on my phone here and there. Toilet time mainly, of course. That's about it. That's really about it. Well, actually, I did get in. I tried a little bit of Battlefield 2042 again.
Still the same?
No, it's a little bit better.
That bar was not set very high, though.
It's better now. Like, it's not something where I'm gonna dive into. Basically, so I had the situation I ran into was I had about like 2 hours. I was like, well, it was like the afternoon. I'm like, it's the afternoon. It was cold or raining or something was going on. That it was like shitty outside. So I'm like, can't do something outside. And we were gonna head somewhere within like 2 hours, and it was like 11:30 or something. Or sorry, it was like 12:30 or something like that. And I was like, well, I guess I could go play some PlayStation. Then I turn it on. I was gonna go play some NHL or something like that. And then I'm like, nah, I'll try to like get into like a match or whatever. I'll see what's going on in 2042. And I jumped in there and I played like 2 sessions or whatever. And I mainly just played within like tanks and some other land vehicles. And then after that, I was like, well, I'm okay with leaving this And I still had, an hour and a half or almost 2 hour, or almost an hour and 40 minutes or an hour and a half left. And I was like, well, that's not very promising.
No, that's not great at all.
So, but then I've also been taking my time with this guitar. I got a lovely new guitar behind me that I've also been paying attention to. So I had that also into the mix. But yeah, I don't know. 2042 is like just kind of there, which is fucked because it's like I don't know what I really want. Like I wanted modern stuff, but this is like just enough not modernish. It feels like they're holding back a lot on shit, but then they also throw in random shit like here's a robot dog, like a Boston Dynamics robot that shoots shit horribly. And then the other side of it, I just get in there and I'm like, I don't want to run around and get killed in like a second. I'd rather just be in a tank and just keep firing at the same fucking spot.
Yeah, I think a lot of that is map design too.
Yeah.
I think there's some issues there. I mean, there's a lot of issues in general. Yeah, I agree. That's the one that has the pinch point
right in the center, which I think is the best. None of the other maps really feel like they have a pinch point, like the rocket ship like launch pad area one. That one doesn't really feel like it has a fucking pinch point because you can fucking drive over whatever you want and go. You're like, oh, I don't want to go through the main road through the buildings. Fuck it. You can just take the left road or the right road and just rip around and not see anyone.
Yeah.
For like the whole time until you get to the fucking rocket ship area,
which is crazy because there's 128 people in there, and it still feels weirdly empty. It's strange. It's a very strange. Something like we've talked about it pretty lengthy or at length in some past episodes, but there's just still something about it that feels off. And I mean, aside from the broken parts of it, I mean, just the overall feel of it just doesn't feel great either. So I don't know. We'll see. Maybe it'll get better. Maybe it won't. We'll see.
Do we want to knock out the question first and then go to our topic?
So we asked for questions a while ago, and a good one came from Ed, our friend over at Nintendo Pow Block. But we didn't have time to do it because it is a little bit of a bigger question, or it could be depending on how the conversation goes. But so we kept
like 30 seconds.
Yeah.
From both of us.
So we kept saving it for the end, and then we would run out of time as well because we would end up talking about our main topic for too long as well. So we finally wanted to address this at the beginning here. But his question was, what gets you to play games that would not typically be your type of game? So it could go either way. It could be a quick thing or it could be something longer. But thanks, Ed, for the question, and we appreciate it.
Yeah. What makes me play games that I typically wouldn't play? So I've got an immense amount of ADD. Those who listen to the podcast understand completely. And so for me, a lot of the shit for me is just like, I don't know. I feel like a lot of, like, I'm so stupid. I get attracted by like the fucking artwork.
Yeah.
So if I'm playing a game I normally wouldn't play, the first thing that's going to happen is I'm going to click into the store and I'm going to study a lot of the game. And like, it takes a lot for me to want to play a game. There's the side of stuff too. I mean, obviously we talk about this shit every week. So we play shit that we normally wouldn't play in some cases, honestly. But most of the time, I mean, we're not really that picky. I don't think. Something comes out that's like AAA or whatever. And we're like, yeah, sure. We'll try it out. I mean, we don't really... If it sucks, we don't play it. I think that's a difference. Because I think a lot of podcasts will be like, boy, this game sucks. And then they'll fucking complete it.
Well, that's like the Twitch mentality, too. They play bad games on purpose because they get people to watch them, right?
Yeah,
in some cases, at least. Or YouTube, even.
But I mean, like, even some of just the audio podcasts that don't do video. It's like, there's 6 hours in the game and this sucks. If you're 6 hours into anything and it sucks, I mean, you're going to leave.
Yeah.
You go on a fucking fishing trip and 6 hours in you don't catch any fish. Your ass is going back on the land. I mean, you're just not... I'm not interested in playing that. But I don't know. I think I also give stuff a chance sometimes. Like, I wasn't necessarily... Like, Hades is a good example. I'm not a huge... If it's like hack and slash stuff like that, it has to be like team environment. like Castle Crasher stuff, shit like that for me. But I had heard good enough things about it. Black Friday came around. It was on sale. I guess when things are on sale that I normally wouldn't play, I play them. That's a shitty thing to say, but whatever. And then I did some research on it, and I was like, okay, cool. And even when I played it, though, I was like, whoa, this is not at all what I was expecting out of this game. But I enjoy it, and I normally wouldn't like a game like that.
Yeah.
So, but here I am playing it, right? So,
for me, I play a lot of different things. I mean, I'm all over the board when it comes to what I play, whether it be I play a handful of indie games, and a lot of times the indie games I end up playing are either from hype that you hear about on the internet or other podcasts and things, or I'm a sucker for that. I'll buy into it 9 times out of 10, but or I'll find it just scrolling through Game Pass. Not gonna. I mean, to be perfectly honest, it's there, and it's like
nothing to worry about there. Yeah, I did that with PS Now a couple times,
and it's nice, right? Like, there's no money behind it other than the subscription you're already. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I can jump into an indie game or a game I don't necessarily think I will like and play it for a little bit and see if I like it. And if I don't return to it, it's not the end of the world for me, right?
Has there been a game that we both played together that we found that we normally wouldn't have fucking played?
I mean, other than Hades.
Recently?
Because Hades is not my style of game either, but I love Hades. Which is... Because I usually do not like roguelike. Yeah, I mean, to some extent.
Kind of a social style game, which I'm not a huge, just let me be. I want to play the fucking game. Or if I want to play multiplayer, I want to be, done with it, and then, that lobby's gone. I don't exist in that map or that world. I'm out of it.
And even the multiplayer of Riders Republic is kind of weird, where it doesn't really matter. You could just be in a general party.
Yeah.
But I don't know. For me, a big thing, like you said, the art. When I see the artwork for a game, I'll click on it, especially if it's kind of like RPG looking. I really am a sucker for RPGs, even though seems like lately I just can't finish any of them. I just get in there and play a good chunk of it, and then I'm like,
share of time into RPGs over the last fucking 16 months.
Right. I put 90 hours into Persona 5 Royal. 90 hours. I looked at my PlayStation summary or whatever. It's crazy.
That is wild.
It's a long time.
That's a lot.
I loved it, but it also kind of burnt me out on long games. I have 28 hours in Tales of Arise, and I have not returned to it in 3 months. And I want to beat that game. I probably will. I'm on this kick right now where I'm trying to get back into playing a lot of games. And one of them that I forgot to mention earlier, I played a lot of Guardians. I went from chapter 1 in Guardians to chapter 9 over the weekend. So that's been my big grinding game that I'm trying to get that one done and over with. Not because I don't like it, but just because story games lately have kind of been wearing on me to where I get bored with them.
Sure.
But yeah, a lot of times it's usually just hype or things that I read about it. If I see a game mentioned enough times, I'll give it a go. Like Stardew Valley, that's not my type of game at all. There was a bunch of hype around it, so obviously I picked it up, and I still never got into it. I just could not get into Stardew Valley for the life of me, and I don't know. There's nothing wrong with the game. It's not like it's a bad game, obviously. No. It's a very, very much beloved game, but something about that type of game doesn't work for me. Survival games I really don't like. I did play a little bit of Valheim, and it was fun while I played it, but I don't have the interest to really return to it. It's kind of weird.
Yeah.
And then, like you said, also sales. Sales are a big thing. If it goes on sale and it's like a game that I'm kind of on the fence about, it's easier to buy it when it's cheaper, right?
Yeah,
and go in. I mean, that's how I got Guardians of the Galaxy. I was nervous, or not necessarily nervous about it, but I wasn't.
Oh, fuck yeah, I would be nervous considering Avengers.
Well, yeah, different studio, but I mean, same publisher, but still, I wasn't sure, and I saw a lot of people talk very well about it and really enjoyed it. So once it went on sale, I got it for $25, and so I picked it up, and it's been a fantastic game. Like what I've put into it has been great. I really enjoy it. But it's also one of those things I'm kind of trying to power through it a little bit because story games are just wearing on me. And I know if I lose interest in it, then I will never return to it.
Sure.
So, but yeah, there's a lot of good games like that I've picked up either on a sale or just on a whim based on other people's recommendations. And that's just kind of the way it goes. But I play probably a lot more like different games than you do.
Yeah,
you tend to like
sure,
kind of latch onto something. Like Overwatch is one you tend to latch onto, and I bounce in and out of it.
I think it works well because we both kind of play shit that we both wouldn't play.
Yeah,
which works out good. Like you're RPG dude.
Yeah,
and I'll do like story campaign, multiplayer based stuff. I'll definitely do simulation.
Yeah, simulation is something I have a hard time getting into.
Some simulation games, my man. Love me some realistic simulation games.
I don't know what it is. Like what Mud Runner, where we both
that
download
fucking
it.
Thing.
Yeah, I was gonna say we both download it. I played like 2 levels of it, and then I bounced out. And then you were into it.
After I beat that, dude, I was like, "Holy fuck, I beat that!" It's like, my God, it took a good amount of time too.
Yeah,
I mean,
I played
really
Flight Simulator and didn't care for it. I played it for maybe an hour total, and I go, cool,
dude. You know what? Honestly, like I tried. This might just be because we are so spoiled with console games now, and just graphics in general. But like, and not to say that Flight Simulator is not beautiful. It is beautiful. Like it's pretty incredible how they use, Bing Maps with Azure to populate everything and real weather and all that kind of shit. But like when I played it at your house, I was like, it's kind of like it's just a demo. Like it just kind of feels like, okay, I'm gonna go in and like show my buddy this cool technical achievement for Microsoft and dick around it for a bit. And I know there's a huge community for it. Like I'm not dismissing that there isn't people that play it hardcore, but I just
the people with like the joystick and everything else.
Yeah,
too,
well,
like
I'm sure if you had a setup at home, it'd probably be a lot. It's like
fun,
racing games, right? Like it'd be a lot different. But I don't know. I like played it and I was like, that's cool. Like, I mean, the plane looks nice. Yeah, I'm flying over shit. But I mean, I went back to Flight Simulator 98 in my head as a kid. And that blew my fucking mind because, you're flying at 20,000 feet. You don't see shit. Right. And then you're Flight Simulator 2000, sorry. And then you're flying over, some shitty 3D model of, a couple skyscrapers to signify what is New York, right? And you're like, oh my God. But I mean, I just think it's the same thing. So,
yeah.
Well, Ed, hopefully that
answered what he wanted.
Yeah, hopefully it does. On to the meat and potatoes of this episode. So obviously Microsoft acquired Activision Blizzard. You can listen to our previous episode, available both on YouTube as well as the audio version on all the podcast platforms, with the WASD boys, under the same Diggity podcast, which you're listening to right now. And everyone's been focused on that. Everyone's been, talking about what's going to happen with COD. Are they going to even get all these studios? Is this monopolization? Is this not? What the hell is going on with this? What's going on with that? And something that I've slowly started to see trickle, but not much, is like, what do we think PlayStation answers? Or like, what do they do? Right? I mean, really, you've got about a year in a bit, maybe 2 years max with litigation for it to, for this puppy to completely close up. And that's pretty fucked up because that'll be 4 years into PS5 at that point.
Yeah.
So you'll be, and they said, these are 7-year console lives? Is that what they said? Or is it said longer? Or they're probably not even at that point yet,
I don't think they put a number on these.
They're probably a lot longer. I bet you they're like 10 years now. Considering
I would imagine
the expansion ability, and now you're fucking around with the cloud. So anyways, I mean, you're going to be at, let's say, the half-life of it, right? And that's an interesting situation for them for sure. So I definitely want to talk about what we think I want to talk about what we think they should do, like our recommendations to it, and then discuss like what they're going to do.
Right. What we actually think will happen.
Let's actually do what we actually think will happen, and let's talk about what we would want to have. Let's do it in that order instead.
So,
but yeah,
there is one little tidbit I wanted to touch on before we got too deep into this. So, Phil Spencer actually tweeted today and said, had good calls this week with leaders at Sony. I confirmed our intent to honor all existing agreements upon acquisition of Activision Blizzard and our desire to keep Call of Duty on PlayStation. Sony is an important part of our industry, and we value our relationship. So hopefully that puts at least some people's minds at ease to some extent, but it's also a little bit of he didn't say in what capacity, because technically Warzone is Call of Duty as well. Yeah. So, I mean, it could be a little bit of lip service right now, but for the time being, it does sound like Call of Duty, and that was... I think when we did our episode the other day, most of us were on board. I think you were either way, right? But yeah, I assumed that Call of Duty, since it is the giant cash cow and it makes most of its money through microtransactions, I assumed that one would probably be multi-plat. But the other ones were obviously very much up in the air. So
this tweet also, by the way, sounded like when a country invades another country.
Yeah, it
and
definitely did.
And then they talk to the leaders of another country being like, we've rest assured that we will not encroach on the bubble. You know, like it's just, this is kind of fucked up. This felt like big bad, Microsofistan or something like that. Like they have their own fucking country and they just invaded fucking Sony and they're like, hey, or the neighboring company or neighboring country to Sony and say, hey, don't worry, like we're good. Yeah, I was on the position that they were gonna keep COD no matter what on PlayStation, just given the sheer volume of revenue it does. I don't think you can fuck around with that. Right. And unfortunately, I think Microsoft is like, it sucks that we can't fuck around with that.
I agree. I think they would. I
guarantee you in the boardroom, they're like, fuck. Wouldn't it be great if we could just move this thing? But boy,
when it makes up such a huge portion of their money, of the money that Activision brings in each year,
like operating, no,
you can fuck with the rest of it, but probably don't fuck with that one.
Yeah, exactly. So that and Candy Crush,
yeah.
So okay, so why don't you start off? What do you think they're gonna do? Let's do a timeline of the 2 years because I think that's fair.
So I think this is tough, and it also puts Sony in a pretty interesting position because up until now, including now, obviously, Game Pass has completely overshadowed PlayStation Now, and you see articles, or we see articles every day, pretty much from various different news sites saying, oh, PlayStation is working on a Game Pass competitor. Technically, they already have one. What they need to do, what they are doing, from what it sounds like, is they're rebranding it and hopefully improving it. But PlayStation Now is very similar to Game Pass. There's some differences, obviously, but so I think first and foremost, they need to get on board with the streaming, and they need to get on board. Well, we're doing what they are doing.
What they're gonna do.
So according to everything we've heard so far, they are going to rebrand PlayStation Now, and they are going to make improvements to it to actually make it more of a rival to Game Pass, which at this point is very difficult because Game Pass is killing it. Plus, they just hit 25 million subscribers on Game Pass, which got completely overshadowed the other day, but for good reasons. But PlayStation is going to definitely work on their PlayStation Now, and they're going to, since they don't have nearly the cash on hand as Xbox, I think what they're going to do is continue to partner with different companies. So I think they're going to continue to partner, especially with Square Enix. That's a big one, right? Keep your Final Fantasies and things of that nature on PlayStation, and better on PlayStation, first on PlayStation.
Yes.
And that's kind of been the way it has been for the most part anyway, but I think they will continue to do that. And I think they are also going to maybe seek out another sort of bigger publisher or studio that puts out some pretty big games, and that they can really kind of get together with on this. Because I don't. But the hard part is, who is that going to be? Because at this point, they have pretty much, they'd have to kind of get in bed with Ubisoft. Really, that's your one of your larger ones that already isn't partnered with Xbox, because EA would be the next biggest one. Yeah, they may be able to buy them. They do have the cash on hand to buy them, but I don't know if they will. I don't see a Japanese company going after Ubisoft like that. That doesn't really seem like it fits in that realm too well.
I mean, PlayStation, like North America would hit that up.
Yeah,
massive
I agree.
Office in California.
So the weird part is, I mean, right now they're still set up to kill it, right? Like the PlayStation's still selling like crazy, and I think it will still continue to. I don't think this news is necessarily going to hurt that by any means.
Definitely not the general public. General public probably doesn't even fucking know nor care.
Right.
Nor understand the implications of buying a PlayStation now versus, a year and a half, 2 years from now.
Right. Right. If you aren't into this fear pretty heavily, it's going to be hard to really, most people aren't even going to know. Like, I can talk to a bunch of my buddies that play PlayStation and play, Call of Duty or whatever it may be, and they probably have no fucking idea.
Well, not only that, you're going to say, hey, Activision Blizzard, and they're going to say, I don't play World of Warcraft.
Exactly. Yeah. It's like, well, I mean,
which someone driving right now or doing whatever they're doing, listening to this, was like, oh God, but that's the real world we live in, right? People don't know that. So
I also think PlayStation is going to continue with the PC releases, and I think they are going to become something that happens sooner, if not on day and date of release. I think they see the value in that now after watching God of War sell as well as it has on Steam. And I think they will definitely start to pursue that, because that does hit a whole nother market. I mean, at this point where we're at, streaming is going to really start taking off, and PC gaming is going to start taking off. I mean, it already has been taking off, obviously, but I think it's going to become a much larger portion, because now
you don't need the
everybody
that.
Card. No kidding. Now everybody that, a bunch of people that have played on PC now have access to a whole nother world through Xbox, essentially. And it really changes the game quite a bit for Xbox. And I think PlayStation sees that and also is going to pursue that. I also think they're going to go very heavy into the VR, because that is something that sets them way apart from Xbox. So I really think they're going to do a lot of what they've already been doing, but I think they're going to amp it up, because I don't foresee them making any super crazy moves. PlayStation seems to play things a lot more close to the chest, and on top of that, they seem to play things a little bit more safe. I mean, naming your PlayStation VR 2, naming your PlayStation the 5th generation, the PlayStation 5. I mean, it makes sense, and that's what they seem to stick with. And I know that's just naming conventions, but in the past, they've kind of done samey stuff, right? A lot of their exclusives are third-person action-adventure games, and that's where they excel, and they know that. But at the same time, I think they're going to have to expand and do more there, because people will start to wear down on that genre. And I think I hope they're aware of that. I don't know if they are, though, right?
Yeah.
What do you think they're going to do?
So over the next 2 years, I think the things that they will do, not versus what I'd like them to do, but the things that they will do. So in terms of acquisitions, I think they'll either pick up Sega or Square Enix.
Sega's pretty well in bed with Xbox right now, though.
Yeah, but I think they can come in, and I think it honestly makes more sense on a PlayStation, a lot of Sega's games, than it does on an Xbox. And then same with the Square Enix stuff. On the VR, they're definitely going to go heavy on the VR. The problem with that is they're not like, so to me, like PlayStation VR now and VR 2, the problem I have with thinking that they might go really hard on that is it requires a PS5. So like
Yeah.
you go like Oculus Quest 2 and for $300 you've got the whole fucking thing.
Right.
Right? Like you're in VR, you're doing your shit. Now is it going to be as good as PSVR 2? We have no idea. We haven't fucking seen it yet, right? So we haven't been able to experience it. We will.
On paper, no. But
yes. But you still have to buy a $500 box behind that, whatever amount it's going to be, and the rumor is it's going to be about $400 for the VR headset. So, you're going to be $900 in to experience what you can possibly experience at the start for $300 minus a Horizons game, right?
Right.
So I do think that they will go hard on that. I think they need to make acquisitions. So I think that they will make acquisitions and they'll start playing pretty mean. Xbox, well, it puts out tweets like this and shit where it's like, hey, I assured them, we need them in the industry. This has no political meaning behind it, but like any sort of like gaga, goo goo, rainbow, lollipop,
right.
woke shit like this that
save face
is just to make, and it's to personalize, it's to make the brand personable, as if it's a relatable to human structure, that it's a decent human being in the eyes of a consumer, and it's not. It's going around and it's buying up everything that it fucking can to squish everyone else. So, yeah. And ultimately that's what it is, right? That's fucking business. Someone has to die, right? So I think that they'll make the acquisitions. I think that they will, and they've been pretty good at it. I think honestly they've been better at it than Xbox in a lot of ways over the years. I think Xbox has gotten smarter at it, but I think you're going to see a lot more investment in indie games and indie studios. And I think you're going to see the backing of those things to try to grow those studios and to cultivate them so that Sony can pick up those studios for a bargain and turn them into something else. I think you're going to see them also ramp up production and create another Sony studio somewhere.
Didn't they just announce one?
They did, yeah. But I think that they will throw in another one and start doing their own shit. They're also making a shit ton of money off of some of their other IP, right? Spider-Man, shit like that. So that does help them out with that kind of shit. And obviously video game movies and TV series are lighting up like crazy. Right. In terms of PlayStation Now, I think it probably gets rebranded and it starts fresh on a marketing campaign. And I think that you see more aggressive pricing than Xbox. And I think that you see a cheaper price along with the Apple TV stuff, which I know Apple TV isn't like a huge sell considering the amount of content on it. But I think you see that, and I think you see some other shit get thrown into it, right? Crunchyroll, all that kind of shit.
Yeah, for the they also bought Funimation.
Yeah, sorry, Funimation, yeah.
But for those who haven't, because we had a whole conversation about this earlier too. So the the Apple TV stuff that he's talking about is actually with the PlayStation 5 they offered like 6 months of Apple TV for a while, and I don't know if that deal's still going on. I used it, but I think
it's
I'm not sure.
Just about ending.
Okay. But that's what he's referring to there.
Yeah. Sorry. Thank you.
No, you're good.
So yeah,
I just want to make sure everybody's on the same page.
I think they'll do that. I think they'll have to pair up some other services. They can throw Funimation into that stuff, which is huge. I mean, that's a big draw, Funimation right? Would be massive, plus, you've also got the audience who's playing RPGs and stuff like that, who typically are into that stuff.
I totally forgot about that purchase of Funimation. Yeah. That's a big deal if they actually utilize it, which so far they have not. But if they do get around to it, that's huge.
So I think they'll do that. And then on the PC front, this is where I'm confused. So I'll get into what I'd like them to do after you're done your segment, of course. But I think what they will do is Epic Games, their stake will be purely a technological stake so that they can stay ahead on the engine. I think Microsoft has all these studios that have their own engines or use Unreal Engine and other stuff. But I think Sony can take advantage of being an insider right in on that stuff and getting it. And Tim Sweeney will not fucking sell shit to Microsoft. nor Apple, obviously, at this point in time. And so I think they're going to use that from the tech perspective. I would not be surprised if they bought Valve.
Do they have the capital to buy?
Yeah, Valve's worth about like $3.6 billion.
Really?
Yeah.
Figured it was higher than that.
No, it's not that high. I could see them purchasing a Valve, keeping Steam, and then that is your cheapish way / quickest way to get somewhat of a similar ecosystem to Game Pass, console, PC, and cloud, because they already have the cloud gaming, right? And it's not like it's out of their realm with.
It's not like fully cloud. It's streaming from your console, isn't it? Right?
No, there's
last I checked, it was just streaming from your console. But I haven't used it for a while, so I don't know if that's been updated. But I was thinking it was just.
PS Now has like just streaming. Like you can just stream it yourself, like right from the cloud.
Well, yeah, they have the streaming. Yeah, so you don't have to download the game.
Yeah,
but I mean, like if you hop on your phone and want to play you don't
no.
stream it like xCloud does, right?
No.
Okay.
So, but I think
I would just.
Yeah, no. I think if they purchase Valve, like that's. I think I could see them doing that.
The bad part about so my only concern there is that they've really kind of been partnered with Epic, and most of the games have come to the Epic Game Store, but not Steam. So that's kind of the weird, like.
I know, I get that. I mean, my only thing is this, right? Is like I guess they could go buy, like. So the problem is, right? You go get Valve, you have all this other PC shit in there, right? And there's a lot of competition. Sony's games like God of War and shit like that are always going to come on top for that kind of stuff. But I guess Epic Games is more a clean slate. I just see it with all the other shit going on with Epic in terms of the other investment partners. The amount you would have to buy Tencent out to have actual majority control would be so fucking astronomical high that it's not going to happen. And I think that they would rather just have a stake into it so they can understand what's going on technically and technologically wise. And also have the license to use some of that engine without the without the royalties and all the other shit. I don't know. I see Steam as the pickup by them, and then you have the same ecosystem. Then it comes down to games and acquisition, but the exclusivity for sure over the next 2 years is going to tighten the fuck up from Sony. It has to. So like you're going to see Xbox pull the same shit of like, we're bringing it to every console, and Sony's going to say this is exclusive to PS5 because they need to do that. They cannot.
So you think they're going to tighten up on the PC aspect of things? Or...
No. I think no. Sony will still release stuff to Steam and stuff like that, but Sony, like other third-party other titles that they might release to Xbox and stuff like that. Like if they go pick up Sega, they're just going to put that shit on the PlayStation.
Absolutely.
They're not going to fucking any new pickup is not going to go to Xbox.
PlayStation has not been shy about that already. I mean,
none
of their exclusives or none of their like first-party studios go anywhere else. I mean, they may come to PC, but that's been I mean, God of War just came in. It's what, 3 years old, 4 years old almost. Yep. So definitely, I agree. If they pick anybody up, it'll 100% just be exclusive.
Yeah, and I think that if they, in the 2 years they're gonna bring an xCloud competitor, and they'll either work with fucking Epic on that, or if they pick up like what I think they will, or they pick up Valve, then they'll push it into that and use some of that technology to push it. I mean, the Sony team, like people, I think on the outside view, at least in most podcasts I listen to that aren't like heavy PlayStation podcasts, just like generalist ones, look at Sony as like not a tech company. And that couldn't be further from the fucking truth. I mean, Sony is a better hardware company overall than Microsoft is.
I would agree with that.
They've been making chips, wafers, everything for fucking eons and eons and eons. And I mean, everything from a fucking camera to TVs to crazy shit,
Yeah.
That's
Sony's
used.
been in that realm for a long time.
And with that too, they've also been pretty fucking heavy as a company on cloud computing. Now Microsoft has that edge with Azure 100% right now. But it's a smart fucking company. It's not like this, like they just go buy something and it's a ragtag shit put together. I mean, like the PS5 team is way nerdier than the fucking Xbox team when it came to like, we got how long was that presentation? Like an hour and a half at DICE, I believe,
like
or GDC.
The most deep dive,
deep dive shit I've ever seen in my life.
They spent like great. 20 minutes just talking about the audio.
I loved it.
Wild.
I loved every second of it. But yeah, so they definitely will bring the cloud stuff. Other than that, I mean, that's all I see. And like 2 years. I mean, it's a couple acquisitions. Like there's not there's not. I read the list on the last episode that we just put out where we covered the breaking news. I mean, I read out a list of there was 7 big-ish companies left, right? And I mean, EA is not going to be a fucking thing. That's not going to happen.
No.
Ubisoft, probably not, because their whole fucking thing is, and all their revenue has always and will always be based off of multi-fucking platform and multi-platform, fucking
everywhere.
Still building for the Wii U and the Switch when the Switch was like 3 years in.
Right.
So it's like they're not doing shit. And Ubisoft is also looking clearly to become more of a tech company as a whole and a services company with the way that they took the Rocksmith product. I mean, that's just going to evolve into every instrument.
Everything, yeah.
And then it's going to turn into other subscription services with that model, and they're just going to bake it into solutions needed.
I think you're right. I think Ubisoft is looking to get into that subscription game with you just said it and I totally forgot it. Rocksmith. There it is. And they also have Ubisoft Plus, which I don't think is doing exceptionally well for them, but
no,
I could be wrong.
It's not doing incredibly well for them. This is a fucking problem too, is with a Game Pass. Okay, so is it still $10 a month for like the basic?
Yeah.
Okay, so for $10 a month, I can go get Game Pass, right? Or what is it for Ubisoft Plus? What is it? Fucking $6.99, $7.99, some weird fucking. You search that out. Anyways, I can go get Ubisoft Plus and get access to X amount of games, or I can go to Game Pass for $10 a month. What is it?
It is $14.99 a month.
Okay, so I can go pay $14.99 a month to go play some Ubisoft games, or I can go play hundreds of fucking games for $10 a month. And of those hundreds of games, they're not old games. They're fucking brand new shit. And I understand Ubisoft Plus has some new shit that comes out to it as well. Yes, I get it. But the frequency is not the same, considering now with what Microsoft owns. So
yeah. PC access is $14.99 a month. Multi-access is $17.99 a month, and that includes PC as well as cloud gaming through Stadia and Luna.
Holy fuck. Oh my god, Luna. Jesus. That's gonna die. Okay, here's the list again of those companies, because now that I'm looking at it, I want to add Capcom to that list.
Yeah, I was gonna say Capcom.
So the list is EA, Take-Two, Nexon, Bandai Namco, Embracer, Netmarble, Ubisoft, Konami, Square Enix, Capcom, and Sega. So I think Square Enix, Capcom, and Sega will be purchased within the next 2 years. Konami, I don't think so. Ubisoft, I don't think so. Netmarble, no. Embracer, no. Bandai Namco, way too in bed with Nintendo. Nexon, that's more like a PC play to me. And then, so like Microsoft can maybe pick up Nexon. Take-Two. Oh. That's tough. They're kind of, I mean, while I look at that company, if you look at that company over the last like 6-7 years, they're building it to be acquired.
Yeah.
Because they've literally just went out and bought as much shit as fucking possible.
Right.
And they just kept Zynga. Raising. Yeah, and just kept, I mean, Because what do you do, right? Like when you're, so if you're Take-Two and you keep purchasing all these fucking things, right? Mobile is one thing. That's a little silo by itself. But now you have all these games that you've acquired, all these studios that you've acquired, and now you're going to be left between two subscription platforms. Can you fucking operate normally? I know you have Rockstar and you have other things, but beyond those things, the operating costs of like running a smaller studio, can you fucking do that? Considering the way that the subscriptions operate, or are you going to be forced to be like, yeah, we're going to sell some shit or sell the whole fucking thing? I don't know. I
think at the very least you have to make a deal with, at that point, say it does come down to like Xbox and PlayStation, right? For simplicity's sake, I think at that point you have to make a deal with one of them. Whether you sell to them or not, I think you are going to have to make that deal with them to be like, I'm going to stream exclusively to PlayStation as long as you let me use your infrastructure, right?
Yeah, because I mean, you don't like even EA, right? If you strip away Madden, NFL, FIFA, right? If you just take those games, besides EA Play, which again, that subscription's part of fucking Game Pass now, and Ubisoft is probably going to be part of Game Pass eventually, or it's going to get squeezed the fuck out, right? Because there's no value there comparatively.
No, not at all.
And I get people be like, well, there could be the Ubisoft game they want to play. Yeah, but they don't want someone to jump in for 3 fucking months and leave. They want them to stay on for a year and keep staying on and on and on and on and on. It's just weird because it's like Take-Two started that shit before we had any of these subscription services to be just a giant conglomerate of just picking up a bunch of shit. And THQ Nordic did the same shit.
I was going to say Embracer is crazy right now.
Yeah. It is.
THQ Nordic's under Embracer, right?
Yeah. And I mean, Embracer is the same dealio where it's like we're just going to keep going and acquiring more and more shit before these subscriptions happen. But now with Embracer, it's like, how the fuck do you do that? Because eventually, Xbox, if someone's not letting you buy them or you don't have the money to fucking buy them or you're just like, nah, we don't really want to pick them up, you also don't want to bring their shit to your Game Pass constantly and cut them contractual deals all the time now that you squeeze them into how they need to operate is by doing that because you have enough fucking games.
Yeah.
And you don't want to spend.
Oh, sorry. So my contrast to your statement about Sony picking up some studios here.
Yeah.
I think they need to, but I don't think they I don't know. So it's weird
Square
because
Enix is $5.6 billion, Capcom $4.9 billion, and Sega $3.6.
Yeah, which those are the three I could see the most. But I don't see Capcom agreeing to sell to PlayStation because they work heavily with Nintendo for like Monster Hunter and things like that.
Do you think that if they bought them that they would still let them work with Nintendo?
I don't think so. Like you said earlier, I think
Nintendo is the like kid in the middle of a messy fucking divorce. And I think what's going to happen here is the exclusivity I have is that nothing that is on PlayStation goes to fucking Xbox if it's owned by Sony, but it might be able to go to Switch. Because that's like its own little silo and they don't really give a fuck about it. Depends on what Nintendo's next console is, which, I mean, let's be fucking real, probably another silo because their online shit sucks. And it's if this is what they bring in 2022, right, Nintendo, in 2024 when they announce a new system and the online services, I doubt it's going to be in any sort of realm of PlayStation or Xbox. So I think they're safe there. But
yeah, I just don't know. So the other thing is Japanese companies do not like to be bought out. Like Nintendo, Xbox, or Microsoft, I guess, approached Nintendo early on to buy them, and they got laughed the fuck out of the room. Not because they didn't have the money to, but because Nintendo was not going to sell. And this was not when Nintendo was at its fucking peak, right? So I that's my problem with Sega and Capcom. I think those are, and I mean, really Square as well, but I could see Square selling before I could see Capcom or Sega selling. And Capcom, like I said, it seems to be lately, especially, well, not even lately, Monster Hunter is very, very big in Japan and everywhere now. It's gotten much, much larger. But the big thing is the handheld market. They got to stay in that handheld market for Monster Hunter because that's where it seems to thrive. I mean, Monster Hunter World did fantastic, and Rise seems to be doing very well on PC as well. But those old, like the 3DS Monster Hunter games are fucking like people loved them, right? And then Rise seemed to do pretty well. I mean, I think it sold more overall, but I don't think it was quite as beloved as some of those older games. But I think with Monster Hunter being such a big thing for Capcom, it makes it a little tricky. Sega is in a really, really weird spot right now. I mean, they have Sonic, but they haven't put out a good Sonic game in a long time. They're getting ready to put out this open world one.
Is Sonic is Sony Pictures too?
That I'm not sure.
I'll look it up. You continue.
You might. Yeah, I was gonna say do a quick Google on that. But I don't. If Sega hasn't sold at this point, I have a hard time believing Sega will sell because they were in worse shape than what they are now. A handful of years ago and still didn't sell. I think they're in a better place now by licensing Sonic out for a movie, and some of the other odds and end things they've been doing. I mean, and Phantasy Star Online does really well for them as well. That's a hard one, but I could absolutely see Square Enix eventually becoming part of PlayStation. That is the one that makes the most sense to me. They've worked very closely with PlayStation in the past. They've had a lot of games that have been exclusive to PlayStation, or at least a timed exclusive to PlayStation. It's just, to me, the Square Enix one seems to be the most likely and honestly the best fit overall.
Paramount Pictures acquired it, but listen to this. So the Sonic film began in the 1990s, but did not leave the planning stage until Sony Pictures acquired the rights in 2013. Fowler was brought in to direct the film in 2016. After Sony put the project in turnaround, Paramount Pictures acquired it in 2017. The majority of the cast signed on by August 2018, and principal filming took place between September and October that year in Vancouver and on Vancouver Island. Following the negative reaction to the first trailer in 2019, the film's release was delayed by 3 months to redesign Sonic. Holy shit.
Which is still a crazy turnaround.
It took 30 years to get that movie out by the time of inception.
Luckily, it was actually pretty good, though.
Luckily, it was also done in this time of CGI, because could you fucking imagine back in 1990? Oh, God.
That would have been awful. But, yeah, like I was saying, Square seems to be the easiest and most likely one in my mind, where if they're going to buy Sega, Capcom, or Square, I think it's Square, and then everything out of that is probably not it's not that it's not possible, but it's not a good super fit. Unlikely.
Yeah.
It's not a good fit, yeah, for sure. So I don't know. Yeah, that's a tough one. I
think they put a lot of money into indies and getting those exclusive to fucking PlayStation and under some sort of PlayStation indie program, which Microsoft was heavy on ID at Xbox just to try to get some exclusive games so that they could breed studios and fucking pick them up.
Yeah.
You know? So I think they'll do that. But
the other weird thing about PlayStation, and they used to operate even more so this way, like Nintendo hardly ever buys anybody. Actually, I don't even know if they really have, because technically like they've just worked out deals, right? Like the Pokemon company is not owned by Nintendo. They're like a second party studio technically. Like they are not owned. They've just been in contract with Nintendo for so long. Same for completely drawing a blank. Intelligent Systems. The Fire Emblem guys. They also are not owned by Nintendo, but they work almost exclusively with Nintendo, and it's been that way for a year or for a long time. Sony did the same thing, right? Like Insomniac wasn't owned by them for the longest time, and then they finally bought them up not too long ago, and now it is actually exclusive. And I think they did the same thing with Naughty Dog for a long time. Like Naughty Dog wasn't actually a part of the company for a long time. It was like that second party studio, but yeah, now they got bought up too. So I think PlayStation sees the value in it, but they have this weird thing where they just keep a long relationship for a very, very long time. And then buy them up, and then, so that's why Square Enix seems to be like that super likely choice in my mind.
So then let's quickly go over just what we think they should do. Just some quick bullet points and some quick explanations. You go.
I want them to go heavy on the PC side of things. I think that in where we're at currently, where it is like everything's going to go to streaming or PC or something at that point anyway. It makes sense for them to put their content onto PC and go very, very heavy on it. A lot of my wants from them is also some of the things I think they will do. I think they are going to make a lot of the decisions that we talked about already. Or I guess I want them to make a lot of those decisions because I think they're smart decisions, and I think Sony is not dumb. Not by any means. I think they're definitely going to play into that realm. I would like to see them pick up Square, as much as I don't want to see this get to the point where everybody's getting consolidated into these two companies, basically. In this instance they're in right now, I think they need somebody who's going to have strong games for them that they can make exclusive, and I think the obvious choice in my mind is Square, and I think they should do it. I think it would be a very, very smart choice on their side if they can get Square to sell, because that's the other side of it. But and I honestly want to see them really excel in the VR space, like I was talking about earlier. I think that is a huge thing that sets them apart from Xbox right now, and I want to see somebody get VR like entirely right, iron out all the kinks. I don't know what that takes, obviously, but there's still some hiccups here and there, and people are obviously getting much better at developing with VR, but I think PlayStation can be the company that really irons a lot of that detail out with some of their larger studios, like making this Horizon game, VR game, something like that. I mean, God of War in VR would be cool as hell too. I don't know how that would work, but I want them to really take off with VR and really push into this very heavily and do something really cool with it, because it's so close, but it's also so far still at the same time.
Yeah, I think that, so I want them to do what I said already. I want them to work on their brand.
Yeah.
Make them a more encompassing, like, gaming brand completely. And they've been, like, pretty good on that. I think they were better at that than Microsoft for quite some time. But the difference is now is that Microsoft has an ecosystem, and so they can really play off of that. So I like to see PlayStation get to that. I like to see them come out with different hardware. I like to see them to be the first one to come out with, hey, we're launching the streaming service, and here's just a box that you can buy for $100.
Yeah.
I'd like to see them make the move on that. I think that'd be interesting. There's two scenarios that I would like to happen. Scenario A is one. So here's what I'm borderline thinking that one of these will happen. I think. I don't know when, but I think one of these will happen, because that just makes so much fucking sense to me. And I was literally scribbling around on paper today and like trying to figure it out on lunch, like just how the fuck these aren't together yet. But so I think the first possibility is it would be highly interesting if they come out with the streaming stuff and they pair up with Apple further beyond Apple TV, but to like Apple Arcade. And Apple Arcade basically offers subscriptions to their streaming service, which you would still be able to play on an Android device. I don't think Sony's going to necessarily get rid of that in this scenario. And you would basically be able to play, on the iPhone or, or your iPad, your Mac, whatever, streaming it. and it would be exclusive to like the Apple One subscription for iPhone users, and then you just download the PlayStation app or whatever and use it for Android.
What exactly is the Apple One? Sorry,
Apple One is, so you've got your subscription services for Apple that live right now are Apple Music, Apple TV, Apple Fitness, and iCloud, right?
So it's all just rolled into one.
Yeah, so all those get rolled into one for one price. Apple Fitness is like Peloton classes, right? Pretty much,
right.
But their own thing. And then you get iCloud better storage, shit like that, right? So the Apple Fitness stuff is actually pretty cool. It's kind of neat how they do it, because
it's just
when it's on your screen, like through your Apple TV, whatever's on your watch gets blown up onto your TV on your watch, and you can track all of your metrics from your watch on your TV live and see what's going on next to the trainer as well. So the one thing that I'm toying around with that I think has a high possibility of happening is that Apple just flat out purchases Sony.
I think that's more likely, because I don't see what Apple really gains from that membership with Sony to begin with.
The only way that happens is, I think, if they want to slowly roll into it. But the reason why I do think Apple purchasing Sony completely, and it's not just because of the fucking PlayStation. Like, honestly, that's probably like 40% of why Apple would buy it. Yeah. But like, to have all the movies immediately go onto Apple TV, Funimation, all of that shit immediately overnight goes onto Apple TV and offered through Apple TV Plus, boost that service like fucking crazy overnight. And then you don't have to worry about making a fucking game console. Apple's always in the fucking back thought about doing it. They've always fucked around and tinkered with gaming. Apple Arcade has actually been quite successful for them and has proven to actually bring out some pretty good shit for them, mobile-wise and revenue-wise. Apple is a $2.7 trillion company. So they're bigger than Microsoft.
Oh yeah,
in terms of and the difference of Apple is that their cash on hand is fucking absurd, like mountains. Mountains and mountains of cash. And Sony is a market cap right now of 126 billion.
Yeah.
So I think they'll acquire. I think in the next couple years they will purchase them. And I think they will purchase them for numerous reasons. They'll purchase them for the entertainment, for Apple TV Plus. They will purchase them for the sensors, for things like cameras that can go into their devices. They will purchase them for the chips that will be used for electric vehicles, which Apple is working on an electric vehicle right now as we fucking speak. And they will purchase them from the gaming side. They can fully integrate them into nearly every single Apple service that they have currently, quickly and swiftly. And they can use their technology easily to upgrade their current hardware, and they can still let them operate. And people like Apple, when Apple buys something, they don't really just fucking gobble it up and then take all this shit and spit it back out. They have Beats. Beats still exists as its own fucking brand. There's no reason why that has to exist as its own brand.
Right. Honestly, if you slapped Apple on the side of it, it probably would even do better.
Correct. Yeah. But they don't, right? They have their AirPods and they have their AirPods Pro, but that's what they do. They let others build out a technology or whatever. They let them test it out as their unique selling feature for that device. That's a non-Apple device. And then Apple takes that feature and they redo that technology in a way that allows it to, be rebranded as an Apple thing instead. So like, UWC and then AirPlay, right?
So my thing with Apple, as far as acquiring PlayStation, I'm looking
Sony
through their
Sony group.
Yeah, Sony as a whole. They don't have any massive acquisitions up to this point. Like, most of these have been relatively small. Like
Apple,
a lot of them other than Beats. Yeah. Looking through here, most of these are not companies I even recognize.
Right. The problem is, though, now is that they were a making company,
right?
A physical device company, and they still are. But now Tim Cook has made that company a services company, and
that's fair.
You cannot supply a services company with your, building they're building their own shit. I mean, they do their own Apple TV shit like Ted Lasso, all that other shit, right? But they cannot fulfill their own shit. It's just like Netflix, right? Netflix can't have everything come from Netflix Studios. It has to be bought up from other shit as well. And definitely I think you could argue you would have to buy up stuff in the beginning while Apple TV Plus is still young like this in order to gain more market share, to where then it is more profitable making your own shit. Because most of the big shit now that like makes people want to go get Netflix is because Netflix made it.
Right.
But in the early version of it, it was because they had Friends on there. It was because, they had all this other shit on that drawed people in. And I think you can get people in with the Sony acquisition. And if you just go by all of their business units and all the companies under Sony and what they do, every single one fucking integrates with Apple.
So I have,
It's fucking terrifying, I know. But
it is very terrifying. For one, I don't think I want to see that happen. To be perfectly honest,
to be honest with you, I don't want them to pick up PlayStation. I'd like to see them pick up Sony, just for the entertainment and for the stuff for electric vehicles that Sony's making and all the other chips.
Yeah, that part would be cool.
Because remember, Apple makes its own chips. It engineers its own chips now. It doesn't manufacture its own chips. It makes them at Foxconn. But I mean, everything fits there, and but at the same time, also, if you're in the room and you're like, I want to buy Sony, and you're that guy that wants to spend, you want to acquire it for 170 billion or 150 billion, whatever plus you're going to give on top of their market cap, you're going to be a fucking idiot if you leave PlayStation.
Right. Yeah. At that point, you got to take PlayStation for sure. For one, like I said, I don't want to see that happen because I feel like Sony does, and like you said, they would probably let them operate as usual, right? But
yeah,
and it's not even me not being an Apple guy. It's just something about that I just really don't like. It does not set well with me at all.
The problem is the current scenario is that at that point, the people who would control gaming is Apple, Microsoft, Facebook, Amazon, and Google.
And Nintendo. Well, and
but at that point, Nintendo's just sitting there like a little fucking island, dude. Nintendo's gonna be peanuts.
They're always off in their own realm,
to that
right?
shit, right? The problem is it's the FANG companies that will own a majority of all this shit. But at the same time, the government seemingly wants to break those up. So, this is where it gets fucked up, right? Because Microsoft goes and buys that stuff, but Microsoft's been doing the gaming for such a long time with Xbox over the years that they've kind of like snuck by this shit. Versus, I think if Apple went to go buy a Sony, immediately there would be questions of monopolization because they would have the mobile game market from a shop perspective, and then they would have a considerable amount from the gaming perspective of console gaming. But that's the problem, right? And then it would turn into this tailwind thing about breaking them up because of Microsoft. Like that's the only company I think would make sense for Apple to buy. Apple thought about buying Tesla.
Yeah.
A couple years ago, and they decided not to.
As much as Apple has wanted to get into the gaming sphere, I don't think if they... I think they would have a hard time launching just a streaming service in the way of like Luna and Stadia, right? Something like that I feel like is a hard sell right now. Now in the future, maybe, right? That could very much be something that would do
their shitty way of doing it what they do now. So like if you look at like Apple TV, not TV Plus, but like you look on Apple TV technically they're getting a kickback. So if you go on there and you subscribe and sign up through Apple TV or through Apple site for like ESPN Plus, for example, they'll go and they get a kickback on that each month to Apple for the ESPN Plus subscription because it was done not through ESPN Plus's website, but through Apple's side, through the App Store for that subscription. And then it kind of pulls all that content into, I guess you could call it like an operating system for tvOS, where then all your shit's there. So the only difference is you would say PlayStation Now still on the screen, and you would sign up through PlayStation stuff and all that kind of shit. But then their games would just sit on tvOS. That's about it. It's not like it would be called like Apple Gaming. It would still be called PlayStation something.
Right. Well, I guess I mean more like if Apple were to go into it by themselves without buying Sony.
I don't think they will now. I think the only way they can
I agree.
is acquisition.
That's the point I was going towards is I think it is too hard for them to break into it, not because they don't have the recognition, just because they haven't been in that sphere and there's very established brands in there already.
Yeah.
So if they were going to really try to get into console gaming, I think their best solution would be to buy PlayStation for sure, or Sony. But I also don't see Sony wanting to sell as well. Like I understand that Apple could just be like, name your fucking price and we'll pay it because they have ungodly amounts of cash on hand.
Yes.
But at the same time, like I said earlier, typically we don't see a whole lot of Japanese companies selling. And it's just the way it goes. Again, Nintendo laughing Microsoft out of the fucking room when Nintendo was in a pretty rough spot is very indicative of how this seems to go most of the time. I'm not saying it's not possible by any means. It's just something we don't really have much of a precedent for, especially in that capacity where Sony's not hurting by any means. So I think it could happen, but there's something like I'm not sure what it is, right? Like buying a publisher to me and like a studio is one thing, but buying the whole damn company that like manufactures this, it just doesn't sit right.
It has been a rumor that sat around. Like here's an article from a investor publication that I subscribe to. So, in light of the stalemate negotiations between Disney and Sony over the property of Spider-Man, Apple has revealed that they are looking into buying Sony Pictures for themselves for Apple TV Plus. A list of new possible acquisition by Apple was revealed by an investor analyst via Twitter, including A24, Lionsgate, CBS, Sony Pictures, MGM Studios, Netflix, and a gaming publisher. Though these acquisitions are far from confirmed, there's speculation that this is the reason that the Disney-Sony plan fell through. Should Apple follow through on the purchase of Sony, the rights to Spider-Man character and other related properties will revert back to Marvel automatically as part of the deal the two companies before Disney bought Marvel. Some critics believe that the reason Disney made the bold offer of splitting the profits from the Spider-Man film franchise 50-50 between the studios is because should the Apple-Sony deal go through, Marvel would get the property back for free. However, there's yet another company eyeing Sony, Amazon, currently. In the past few years, rumors have been surrounding that Amazon is also interested in purchasing Sony as they seek to develop beyond their current streaming capabilities. Both Apple and Amazon share this concern as neither company have a theatrical production model or a distribution model for their services. However, if Spider-Man is to break, the only company that currently has good rapport and a solid relationship over decades is Apple with Disney.
Yeah. Well, and the way I took that from you reading it was more so that they wanted the production side of it, the studios, right? That didn't scream to me that they wanted to buy like PlayStation from a console. Granted, this was also around film, right?
Apple tried
this whole
to buy
article was
Bad
based
Robot. J.J. Abrams' production company, but it was reported that Abrams passed on a huge deal with Apple due to their lack of intellectual property that he could adapt and the fact the company did not have a theatrical distribution model. This is what I'm saying. They have to buy shit that has the rights to IP so that they can fucking source it back out and make remakes of the same shit so that they can put it on Apple TV Plus.
Right.
Could you imagine they bought Netflix?
That's wild.
Wild. They can. This is the thing, right? They hit the gold mine. You save a ton of money up, and you go, fuck it, let's go on a buying spree. They've bought 1 to 2 companies a week, every week for the last year. Apple.
Yeah.
Little things here and there, like tech companies.
I was gonna say a lot of them were like maps. So much maps.
Yeah, a lot of maps data and a lot of like little apps and developer stuff picked up here and there. I mean, they picked up Dark Sky, like a weather app. That's one of my favorite weather apps I have. Just as something they picked they acquire them. They as like a brain farm, right? A hive farm or whatever. And they basically go, okay, cool. I want you to work on the Apple weather app now, and I want you to make it the best weather app it can be. and like that's what they do. You have to do at that point, or else, I mean, fuck, you're worth so much money, and the amount of money being made and bled all over the place, you need to continue to buy stuff. If you don't buy, you'll die. So
yeah. No, I agree. I
hope it's not true, because I really don't want any of these big tech companies to have. Like, I voiced it on the previous episode. I don't like the Activision Blizzard thing with Microsoft, because I think it's going to fundamentally fuck the games industry up. And it's just making these companies so fucking powerful that everyone in this country is going to have a choice of their personal ecosystem, essentially, and that's going to be between Amazon, Apple, Google, and Microsoft.
Right.
And a bit of Facebook.
So the reason I don't necessarily mind the acquisition of Activision and Blizzard is because, to me, I mean, that is a studio and a publisher. They don't make a console. They're not buying up competition in that regard. And the huge complaint forever with Xbox has been they don't have games. They don't have games. So they picked up smaller studios in the grand scheme of things, smaller, right? And then once they go to buy a bigger studio, now a bunch of people get fucking pissed, or a big publisher, a massive publisher, right?
Yeah.
Now people get real fucking pissed off about it. And to me, that's weird, right? Like, when you complain about Xbox not having games, and then, they didn't build it from scratch, but regardless, like, my thing with the PlayStation thing, people were saying, like, well, Xbox could just make their own games, and then this wouldn't be an issue. Sony also headhunted people from various studios in order to get them onto their own studios that they created to make games. Like, it's not like this was something they just had this a la moment where they're like, oh, there it is. It's not like this fucking, they didn't have an enlightenment. They headhunted people to come and work for them.
Well,
and they created studios after the fact, and they did purchase Insomniac, Naughty Dog. Like, there's other people. Like,
I shared my crazy
weird hypocritical thing, right?
I shared my crazy analysis today in the Discord of just events.
Yeah.
With Xbox, which, I mean, I'll just share that quickly and then we'll wrap up. But basically, Mikey Berra used to be the CVP at Xbox, and for decades, he worked at Xbox, or Microsoft rather. Worked on the Xbox team for a large portion of time, and is really one of the key instrumental people, and honestly, like, giving Xbox another fucking chance after it fucked itself so hard on the Xbox One. He helped out a lot on the hardware side and the software side as well. And then he took off like 2.5, 3 years ago to go work at Blizzard Activision as a VP. And then he became, currently he's managing Blizzard. Like, he's the fucking grand poobah of that shit because of Bobby Kotick's shit that's been going on. So he's kind of interim on that. And now Microsoft's buying that fucking shit. And that's just kind of, I don't know. It's just kind of sketch. Like, a deal like that does not happen. Negotiations for a deal like that does not happen in like 6 months or a year.
No, that's been going on for a while. That takes
like a very long fucking time to negotiate that shit. Very long. So
absolutely,
I don't know. I'm just kind of like sketched out by it. Like, I think that's kind of fucked up.
It is certainly
and then
strange.
Now the PR that was put out today is signed by Mike Ibarra, and I guarantee you Mike Ibarra is going to become the CEO. CEO, president, because CEO is going to be to Xbox Game Studios, reporting to P3. But he will run.
I think Mike will take Bobby Kotick's place.
Yeah, he'll take Bobby Kotick's place, whatever that title will be.
Right.
At that time, depending upon reporting. But yeah, he'll take that place.
Absolutely.
And
I
it'll be
100%
agree. Shit. Mike Ibarra made out with a fucking crazy payday, because I'm sure he got a crazy stock package.
Oh, yeah.
Signing on there and taking on extra work. And he already had the crazy stock from Microsoft. And now he's back working for Microsoft.
Uh-huh. I'm sure it's all coincidence, right?
And yeah. I don't want to be a conspiracy theorist, but like, that's fucked.
I don't even know if that's conspiracy theory. Like, that is just piecing it together pretty straightforward.
I'm not claiming that there was intent.
No.
But what I am saying is that a guy who worked for Microsoft for decades goes to a game studio. And Mike Ibarra, I've followed Mike Ibarra for a very long time on Twitter. He's a huge fan of Warcraft. He always has been. And he went over there, worked there, and he probably fucking called.
I wouldn't doubt it.
He was a VP at Influence.
Yeah. Called his old buddy Phil Spencer up.
And call me fucking crazy, but like there's a lot of fucking dots that connect there, and like you can go back even to some of his tweets and shit like that, and you can kind of start seeing some shit, and you're like, man, it smells a lot like just fucking, but not with intent. I'm not claiming that, but went in and now, wow, right. Well, we're having troubles. Let me call somebody up I know. Right. They can buy us for $68 billion.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ. What a world. Anyways, thanks for listening to this episode of Diggity. We really appreciate it. If you made it all the way through this episode, wow, thank you so much. If this is your first time listening, hit the subscribe button through your podcast listening app or website of choice. Evidently, a lot of people still listen on the web. It's kind of crazy. But Spotify kind of counts for that too. So we're on Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Pandora, iHeartRadio, you name it, we're there. We go live, again, every single Thursday at 9:30 p.m. Eastern on the YouTubes and also on Twitch. And the weekly audio version of this podcast is up every single Friday, early morning. You can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Diggity Podcast and at Diggity Pod on Instagram. And with that, I mean, get out there and start buying shit, Sony. And Tim Cook, give me a cut on royalties, dude, if you buy Sony. If they buy that, dude, I'm buying a fucking crown. And I'm putting a little thing that says fucking Rumor King on top or something like that. That shit's, I mean, I fucking guarantee you that shit's going to fucking happen.
We'll see.
The next 2 years, that shit will happen. Mark my fucking words.
I don't think I agree, but I appreciate the confidence.
Any last words or no?
No, I think I'm pretty good.
All right, guys.